First presenter is Hema Mandlekar. She's an engineering leader, has 2 decades of experience in research, development, and shipping products. She has contributed to significant algorithms, softwares, patterns in the fields of image processing, AI, ML, camera technologies, AR, VR, video coding. So she can do everything. And she was at Apple before she founded this company. So welcome, Hema. The stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yuli, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak at Startups Showcase. So Yuli gave me a good introduction, so I will get started with the company then. All right. So like Yuli mentioned, I'm Hema Mandlekar, the founder and CEO of LumosFit. We are based off of San Jose, California. And the problem space, diabetes, as many of you, the audience may be aware, it is a big problem. By 2030, CDC predicts that the number of diabetics is going to hit almost 55 million mark. And there's the stage called pre-diabetes that precedes diabetes. And there are staggering 96 million Americans today with this condition. And over 80% of them are unaware. It is a significantly underdiagnosed problem. And the annual economic burden is also very huge globally. Big problem. CDC predicts by 2040, we'll be touching 500 million mark of diabetes. And what do people use today with this condition? It's called a glucose monitor. So either fully invasive, which is a finger prick, or minimally invasive, that are CGMs. And it is expensive, both of them. They're expensive, obtrusive, and produce biomedical waste with every single use. So what's the opportunity that LumosFit sees here is that pre-diabetes can be reversed and diabetes prevented. What needs to be done? So the National Diabetes Prevention Program, DPP, suggests healthy lifestyle, healthy living. And what is one of the tools that people could use, our users could use to bring about this change, healthy lifestyle change, is self-monitoring of blood glucose. And there are 2 most common barriers for people adopting self-monitoring of blood glucose, and that's cost and invasiveness. We are addressing both of those at LumosFit. So our sensor, truly non-invasive, affordable, and wearable device, along with that an app that provides meaningful and actionable insights to our users, promotes realistic and lasting lifestyle changes, and together the sensor and the app will help our users achieve their goal of reversing prediabetes and reducing their risk for type 2 diabetes. And our long-term vision is to be able to predict and also manage both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And the monetary value proposition here is that for 50% the price of CGMs, we can reduce the annual economic burden of prediabetes by 2.4 billion. And diabetes by over 63 billion. So what's our technical solution? The overview here is that it is a non-invasive optical sensor that looks at 2 properties, light scattering and a certain known physiological change that happens during glucose excursions. The output of the sensor is then fed to machine learning models that map the signal from the sensor to glucose levels. And I talked about our app. The user interfacing aspect provides actionable and meaningful insights to our users to help them reduce their risk for diabetes. Our business model: hardware, favorable unit economics, and a freemium model. The basic will have all the targeted diabetes prevention aspects, and the paid premium model will target the diabetes management aspects of it, and eventually to, it's a big existing wearable market out there. So eventually to scale our business, we'll be looking at licensing our technology. Our first target customers, of course, the pre-diabetics and the sports and health enthusiasts. How do we want to get to them? Through partnerships such as Levels, because Levels, their user base is all sports and health enthusiasts. And we do want to make inroads into the insurance industry because they know who those pre-diabetics are. Big market size, even if we get 10% of the pre-diabetics with the unit economics that we have, our serviceable obtainable market is 3.84 billion in the US alone. Competitive landscape. So the way to look at these 4 quadrants is going from the left to the right quadrant: the accuracy, feasibility and reproducibility increases, and top to bottom, the price increases. Why? Because both of these quadrants have some kind of a sensor, patch, needle, lancet, whatever, that needs constant replacement, and that adds to the cost. The blue quadrant here, non-invasive optical, my previous employers were rumored to also be working there, spectroscopy, polarimetry, RF, PPG, all of that. There have been a lot of graveyards in that area, a lot of attempts. The yellow quadrant here, interesting, this is also non-invasive mechanism through bodily fluid sampling methods, such as tear, saliva, breath, and sweat. The problem there is by the time glucose comes out of these means, it's already at a hyper level. We'll miss the normoglycemia and the hypoglycemia. The red quadrant here, perhaps the audience is very well aware that the Dexcoms, Abbott's of the world, it's all electrochemical sensors. And the state of the art is CGM, continuous glucose monitors. And here's where we are. We are optical, and we've learned from the previous drawbacks, faults, mistakes, whatever, even failures from these quadrants. And I come from a different industry. So what I've done is used my unconventional wisdom to use sensor from a different industry and put it to use for this purpose. And I wanted to bring your attention to this, that only this quadrant, the products in this quadrant alone are commercially available today. None others are. And, I can go over like all the drawbacks and in the interest of time. So just the first two, I'm going to go over a substantial competitive advantage.
Feel free to take your time.
I thought I had 10 minutes. And then 5 minutes of Q&A. So I was like, okay, I know how much 10 minutes is. I'll come back to it during Q&A. So what's our advantage is substantial competitive advantage because we are non-invasive and 50% the price of CGMs. Sustained competitive advantage because our deep learning models can learn from the shipped product, right? Learn from each individual user. And that contributes to higher accuracy for that particular user, leading to precision health. And higher accuracy comes from many different aspects. Like I mentioned, our sensors observe glucose signal in the blood, not just the ISF. So we are able to tell that the glucose signal is coming from blood. Our higher accuracy comes from the fact that we look at both light scattering property and a certain physiological change. Another contributor to the higher accuracy is we are using water is like a noise. It has a lot of interference in the mid-infrared range and near-infrared range, and we are using this interference to our advantage. And also, our technology is independent of skin color. I am darker skin. It works. I've tested. And those are some of and of course, it works for clinically significant ranges, not just the hyper, like the bodily fluid sampling method. And where are we now? So our current traction, it's LumosFit's original invention. It's our patent. We've conducted a preliminary study on 33 individuals that led to building our prototype device, which is a benchtop device, not yet wearable form factor. We have signed up two sizable customers, one in the US and one in India, and we are part of Stronger Accelerator program that's going on right now. And we've started raising funds through friends and family and small angels. And we won a modest grant from ATDD, which is it's a mouthful, Advanced Treatment and Technology in Diabetes. We've applied for SBIR grants. And this year we were showcased in the Diabetes Technology Society's meeting led by Dr. David Klonoff. So that's a great news too. Our next step is to train our machine learning models using complete ground truth and accurate ground truth coming from a clinical study that would lead to our MVP. And my team, so been able to borrow all these sensors, access to lab, and keep my costs low because of Nitin Sampath. He's our advisor from Edmund Optics. Edmund Optics, if the medical community does not know, it's an 80-year-old company. And Dr. Viral Shroff from Colorado University's Barbara Davis Center for Diabetes. He's our advisor consultant for everything related to diabetes and our clinical study. We have a letter of commitment from them. We'll get that done at their institute. And Dr. Godgill, she advises us on all things pre-diabetes. She's an internist at UCSF, and I discovered her because she's currently, like from 2023, an associate editor of ADA's Diabetes Care. That's me. Yuli gave an introduction of me, and you can find me on LinkedIn and read all about me. What's not on LinkedIn is that I've summited Mount Whitney, which is the highest in the lower United States. That's my successful attempt, and that's just a metaphor to show that I do have the perseverance, the planning, and the kind of partnerships that are required to achieve something that's hard. And that's my unsuccessful attempt. So I want to be humble here. Like, as a first-time founder, I'm going to make mistakes, but I don't, that doesn't come in my way. I do go back, revisit the mistakes that I've made, and eventually I try to be successful. Last slide, I promise. So where are we today? Here are we. So our preliminary user study done, the benchtop prototype device ready. In the next 12 months, deliver MVP, followed by that industrial, mechanical, and electronic design, and then followed by that contract manufacturing. And we believe it would be roughly around 5,000 devices per month at this stage. Why are we raising funds now? So zooming into the MVP, we are raising funds to deliver MVP in the next 12 months. IRBEC is the jargon in India. So this is ongoing now, study start, and milestone 1 is data collection through clinical study. Milestone 2 is to train the deep learning models using this pristine data with the correct and complete ground truth. And then milestone 3 is the app development, which is a very important aspect and a big problem as well, right? Behavioral change it's a big thing. So that's that. Questions for me? I think you're muted, Yuli.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Hema. Let's go to the audience, and if you can stop sharing, then I can see the audience and ask questions. Okay. Audience. All right. If you have a question, okay. Sunny has a question. Go ahead, unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, thank you, Uli. So it's great product and great presentation. Thank you. I was curious, Hema, if you're taking any trial patients in India.
Right. So it's, and I'm going to call it, technically it's clinical study now, not clinical trial. So NIH, we've been applying for grants. NIH has a really strict terminology. What is a clinical study? So that's just a clarification. So yes, clinical study. If we get these grants, then it'll be in the US, of course. And then to be cost effective, we are also doing it in India, not only for the cost purposes, but also number of participants, right? We can get more there to improve our statistical power. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. And you mentioned the product would be available sometime next year?
The MVP will be ready. And then followed by that, it's a hardware device as well, right? So it's another 12 months for the contract manufacturing. So we are looking like late 2025 to early 2026.
Gotcha. And what would be the landing cost of the product approximately, and your manufacturing cost?
Right. So those are confidential information. So we've worked that, and hopefully the SOM speaks for that. You know, it's a combination of both the device as well as the subscription model for the app.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know, if anyone wants to contact Hema, you know, of course, she'll be available on LinkedIn and email.
Yes. My email is hema@lumosfit.com, and it is spelled as Hema, Hema, but it's pronounced as Hema.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions for Hema? We have a very quiet bunch today.
Okay, I'll say something then.
Okay.
You know, I'm
Please.
usually the quiet one. Hi, Hema. I think very good presentation, very interesting product. I actually had a patient who refused to be poked, so I needed your device yesterday. So, have you done any head-to-head comparison to what's out there? Because you know, in the hospital, some people actually critique even the home devices that are not as accurate, like just drawing blood itself. So, have you done any of those studies? Like, how accurate is yours?
Sorry, in the hospital
Like,
setting?
how accurate is yours compared to what's out there?
Right. So our clinical study will compare ours with gold standard. That's what we want for training. More than comparison, we want it for training our models through venous blood. So it's not complete yet. Therefore, I cannot compare it to any gold standard, like a YSI machine.
Not yet.
So for the 33 patients that you had, how did it look? Promising? You said you tried different skin colors and
yeah, so that was a preliminary study that was so important that you can call that as the proving the hypothesis. So that's why we are going to a clinical study. We have enough confidence that this does catch. We caught negative, like not only sensitivity but selectivity also. There were dips in glucose levels. So it was a very coarse. It was not a clinical study done by a physician. It was done by me. So it's 1.5 hours apart. We let the 33 individuals come in, and the meal was also uncontrolled. But what was controlled is that 1.5 hours. And then we sampled them before and after meal. So, and then we compared it with the BGM, blood glucose monitor. So we are able to catch not only the positive glucose changes, but also negative. For some people after a meal, it dipped the glucose level. So we were able to catch that as well. And I had different races, Indians, Caucasian, Chinese, Vietnamese. So it worked on all skin type. That was not a problem at all. And mostly it's a problem when we go deeper and deeper into the mid-infra ranges. Yeah, so I cannot quote a comparison or accuracy as compared to anything, because it was not a clinical trial where, okay, it is now compared to something else.
I see. Okay, very interesting technology. Thank you.
All right. So I have an idea. We could host Lumos parties, and you test them before the party and at the end of the party.
Yes, good idea.
All right. Thanks, Lavinia. Did you have another question?
No, someone asked about white CE. Yes,
Yeah.
patients too. I mean, that's easier. The harder part is when there's more melanin. Yeah.
Okay. So Patricia asks, what will be the best way to connect with you? I'm also in the diabetes path. By the way, Patricia is one of our candidates in our cohort in the Founder Institute accelerator, and she's working on a diabetes product also, but not the testing part. Rajiv asks,
I have already contacted you on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you.
Yeah.
I think that we have a lot of things in common.
Yeah, it'll be a good collaboration. What Rajiv asks, what is the validation roadmap?
Right. So like I mentioned, the clinical study will be, the initial clinical study will be only data gathering, not validation. We'll train our deep learning models on that. Followed by that will be a clinical trial where we will validate our sensor. So that's
2025.
Yes. Because we want to validate not with a benchtop device, we want to validate with the actual product that will hit the market. So manufacturing will come before that validation.
Okay, so it will not be the MVP, it will be the production unit that you're talking about for validation.
That is correct.
Okay.
Interesting. So what you're saying is that it's the software and the algorithms that are most important in this.
Correct, because the underlying science is very well known in the engineering community, in the medical community. So
the device is not a big deal.
So these sensors in other industry have been miniaturized. They're available very affordably in Chinese market and everywhere else. So that is not okay. Manufacturing and hardware is a big deal. I'm not downplaying that, but these sensors are available in other markets as smaller form factor. So I'm not as worried about that part as developing the algorithm, developing this MVP to prove this is our accuracy in this limited data set that we have, and then go to a trial with the end product so we can put it out there as compared to this CGM or as compared to YSI. Even CGMs compare themselves to it's called Yellowstone instrument. YSI machine is the gold standard for glucose levels. Take venous blood and put it into that machine, and it spits out information. So that's what we'll do with the production device.
Good. All right. Any other questions for Hema? If you remember, you can. We'll have some time at the end, but if not, you can also put it in the chat so that she will follow up with you with answers. Scanning the chat here. Okay, I have a question. Why do you think all those other people failed?
Yeah, so I can. What I'm going to do is then share again the exact one that I skipped. So let's see here.
Sorry, and you don't have to share any proprietary information, but
no, it's not proprietary. Okay. So here, why did the others fail, right? So these are the problems, these are the drawbacks, and it was not discovered like overnight. All of these people failed, and that's why I have this information from prior literature. Is these technologies, the optical ones that are here, they can't tell where the signal is coming from, whether it's coming from blood or ISF. There's no localization, and as you know, as a doctor, we have
ISF is interstitial
fluid. Sorry, okay. And we have 3 times more than blood, so that's one problem. Near infrared, the signal is weak, so can't only count on that weak signal. So near infrared, the light scattering property the scattering coefficient does reduce with increased glucose level. There is that correlation very well established. However, it's a weak correlation, and people have attempted Raman spectroscopy, an even more weak correlation between the two. And mid-infra, like I said, has a lot of problem with water absorption. It's a big interference. So you can't tell what was reflected, what came back because of glucose, or was the change because of water. And as all of us know, we don't have to have an MD degree. Like, human bodies are mostly made up of water. Radio frequency is something that is gaining momentum. There's a company called AFON that they've been talking in different forums, but there's no literature yet proving the correlation between glucose changes and radio frequency. And PPG is the new kid in the block. That's the sensor used for SpO2 monitor. Just because it works for oxygen levels, it's not been proven yet that it will work for glucose also. Now let's go to the yellow quadrant, the fluid sampling. The big problem here is, like Lavanya mentioned, this will have some kind of a replacement patch. It's not very cost effective. Whatever it is, tears or whichever method it is, that element would have to be replaced in n number of days, right? So that's one problem there. And another, the sweat is making some news these days, and taking like sweat, doctors would know, may cause dermatitis, prolonged collection of sweat from the same site of the body. And like I mentioned, it's not very reliable in all ranges, very reliable in the hyper range, but you can't catch others. Obtrusive, whether it's so Google put out contact lenses a few years ago. So they're all obtrusive methods. And of course, putting any kind of infrared or any light within the eye is a safety concern. And this is not like new to you. If you want me to go over the electrochemical sensors, I'll go over all those drawbacks. But the biggest is there are studies that prove that obtrusiveness, which includes the cost and replace 10 to 14 days, change the site, of the sensor with every 10 to 14 days, all those obtrusiveness are the leading cause of people falling out of it. There's no very low user adherence. So yeah, that's
okay. Are any of the big companies looking into this? I know Google tried the lens.
Google has tried the contact lens, and Verily, it's not non-invasive, it's minimally invasive. So Verily has partnered with Dexcom. It's a public news. There's something confidential that I'm saying here. And Apple has been acquiring companies for the past several years. So I'm assuming they're also interested. It is a holy grail problem. And I want to be humble here. Yes, there have been attempts. Yes, there have been failures. But what is required is thinking outside the box, learning from those optical devices, drawbacks and their limitations, and working on those limitations will get us to this non-invasive device while keeping all the basic science intact.
Right. Patricia asks, can you tell us about your go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, so initially, like I mentioned, we want to partner with companies like Levels, their user base. So the low risk population, right? So their user base are sports and health enthusiasts, and we want to go to market through discover the pre-diabetics through insurance. And then since it's such an underdiagnosed problem, we do want to sell to people that are at a higher risk. I have a family history, so I'm perfectly all right today, but I have a higher risk for developing diabetes because of some underlying factors. So we want to get to them also through these insurance company. So initially it's B2B, but it's more like B2B2C eventually.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Hema. If you